This trip was a big mistake, towing a 30-foot RV along narrow Baja highways, all with no shoulders. Honestly, if we had known how dangerous it would be, we never would have done it.
Here's the strange part. That big mistake actually led to one of the biggest and best decisions of our lives. Hi, I'm Joe.
And I'm Maggie. Join us as we travel across Baja in our RV caravan and find out what led us to this life-changing decision.
At the time, I wasn't even sure about Mexico. I actually wondered if people were only nice to us because we only met them in resorts. But during this trip, something changed.
Everywhere we went, people were genuinely kind, with no reason to be.
And so by the time we left, I turned to Maggie and said, "Wow, Mexicans really are that nice."
That trip just didn't change how we felt about Mexico. It changed our lives, because not long after, we moved here. And this journey you're about to watch, it was the beginning of everything.
It was the beginning of our expat lives.
This was the start of our trip, following our caravan of vehicles to the Mexican border crossing at Tecate. The day before, we had all driven to the border to get our FMMs. The FMM is the visa you need to enter Mexico. If you're driving a big rig, it's way easier to get to the border crossing and purchase it the day before. It is your responsibility to get your FMM. No one at the border crossing will tell you about it. If you don't have an FMM, park, find the office, and get it. Without it, you will be illegally in Mexico. We were especially careful as we squeezed our huge rig through the narrow border gates. This was our first big clue that we should have stored our fifth wheel and rented a little camper van. The gates were very narrow and the parking area beyond was tiny and cramped. If we had not purchased our FMMs the previous day, with our truck parked in the USA, we would have had to find our way to park our RV here while we went to the office to buy it. Can you imagine how much fun that would have been? Note that you're legally required to have insurance for your vehicles before you enter Mexico. Do your research and make sure you have insurance for all the Mexican states you plan to visit. Next, wagon masters John and Becky led us through the streets of Tecate. Being part of a caravan is a wonderful way to do your first Mexican trip. A caravan is usually led by people who know their way around. They already have experience, so you do not have to research everything yourself. We found our group by researching on the internet until we found one we liked. These groups can also be found on Facebook. After a brief stop to buy groceries, we were off, driving through the streets of Tecate and on until the highway. We each had a handle so that it was easier to communicate on the CB radios, which we all had to have. Wagon Master Becky kept up a steady stream of directions to help us make our way through the busy streets. We were still quite new to towing a big rig, and we really appreciated the constant guidance. Here we are, getting onto the road to Ensenada, and that flashing red light is something that should be a full stop. So we always had to make sure that we took full stops in Mexico. We're on our way to the Valle de Guadalupe on this highway, and of course you can see it's in really good shape with nice broad shoulders. And here we are approaching our RV park and learning how to make a left-hand turn in Baja, which is never to use your left-hand turn signal on the highway. And we'll give you more information about that as we go along. Here we are.
Well, never use it to say you're turning left.
Right.
That's not what it's intended for.
Correct. And here we are coming into Rancho Sordo Mudo, which is our first stop. And this is a lovely park with nice wide drive-through spots. So we had a wonderful time here with our rig. It wasn't a challenge to park it. The camp was full service with water and showers as well. And here's Jerry directing us into our parking spot.
We used our solar panels almost all the time.
We did use our solar panels, but we did have water. And we had a short trip this day because we wanted to spend an afternoon in the Valle de Guadalupe, and we visited 2 wineries that day. The first one had a food truck where our group enjoyed a really nice lunch, and even passed a zoo along the way, though we didn't stop there.
We love the landscape in northern Baja.
This is so similar to the Napa and Sonoma valleys in California. If you didn't know you were in Mexico, you would think you were still there. And here we are enjoying some craft beer along with our lunch, and then getting ready to tour the winery. And as you can see, they're spectacular. Look at those sculptures. And the architecture at El Cielo is just marvelous.
Some of the architecture is really old.
And here we are in the gift shop, getting ready to take our tour.
Sometimes mix a certain percentage of oak fermentation with stainless steel fermentation, and normally our whites.
And of course the highlight was the wine and chocolate tasting at the end.
That was great.
At the end of each day, we got instructions for what was happening the next day.
Okay. And we're off again.
And now we're actually going into the city of Ensenada. We'll be leaving Highway 3 and merging onto Highway 1, which we will continue taking all the way south to Santispac Beach. It was a long drive through Ensenada. It seemed to go on forever. Some of it was pretty darn gnarly with a lot of twists and turns. Other times we were riding beside the Pacific Ocean, and that was pretty lovely.
It's another time we're really grateful to have leaders just telling us where to turn.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And now we're heading out of Ensenada and heading towards our stop for the night, which is El Pabellón at San Quintín. We're still on the Pacific border, and this particular RV park was only a couple of hours away, so we had a lovely rest stop. And another benefit of having wagon masters, they know the areas that it's safe for you to pull off and where you can get food and use the bathrooms. Notice how good the highway still is, because we're still in the fairly industrial part of the country. But you can see the shoulders are getting narrower.
Pretty much the shoulders were over by now. That was goodbye shoulders.
Yeah. However, the roads were still good. We still had a long way to go, and they got a lot worse before we were there. And the other thing we didn't expect was how rough the roads would be to get into the RV parks that we visited. Almost all of them were pretty rugged, and our rig did sustain a fair amount of damage on this trip, which was another reason we never should have brought it down with us.
If I had have known how rough the access roads were, I never would have bought our brand new beautiful RV on this trip. It's just not made for this kind of
Traveling. However, we had insurance. It's not a sad story. It eventually got fixed. This particular park, we were right next to the Pacific Ocean. We elected to use an electric site that night, even though we've got a full working solar system on our rig. And here we are getting ready to enjoy a potluck dinner together. With lovely margaritas, of course.
Yeah, that was fun.
And at the end of the day, the dogs got to have a nice little trot on the beach and burn off some of their pent-up energy on the day.
It was spectacular.
That was a really nice day. And if you're enjoying this video, please help us grow our channel by clicking on like below and subscribe so other people can find us. Here we are setting off for Cataviña. This is the third stop on our trip, and we're heading into the central part of Baja, so we're away from the oceans. And again, you can see the narrow shoulders on the road. And
what shoulders? There's no shoulders.
And what you can't see is sometimes there's a drop-off of somewhere as much as 6 or 8 inches, so you really have to be careful. And here we are overtaking on the highway. What might not be evident is that truck driver we just passed had his left-hand turn signal on. And what that was telling us is that from his point of view, the road was clear for us to safely pass him, and that's what we did. And again, here we are pulling off safely with our wagon masters to take a bathroom and food break. This was quite something. Can you imagine cycling in Baja, Mexico? We never saw him again, so he got ahead of us and he stayed ahead of us for the rest of the trip.
We trust he's safe somewhere.
And we're off again. This was actually, I think, one of the longest days on our whole caravan, getting from San Quintín to Cataviña.
This was a long one, yeah.
And the roads seemed to get steadily worse the further we left civilization behind.
They seem to get worse because they did get worse. And here we are indicating to tell the person behind us that it's safe for them to overtake us. So that's the way it works there.
It's kind of nice. It seems like driving in Baja is a team effort and everyone tries to keep each other safe, and I think that's quite charming. And the desert is extremely beautiful here.
It's the rock and cactus garden.
It is, and it definitely is. Apparently those are giant granite boulders and cadone cactuses, which are the biggest cactuses in the world.
And the Cirio trees, which are unique to this area. So it's quite a unique scenery and very striking to drive through.
And then in the middle of it all, you have road work. So the bad roads just got worse because there were no roads. They're still constructing them.
That was the highway for a little while. And we're getting ready to turn left, and we cannot use our left turn blinkers because people will be crazily overtaking us in that mess.
So as you could see in the Sordo Mudo video, we're just easing into the left-hand turn without any kind of signal. And another bad road coming into Rancho Santa Inés.
I think that one actually got the award for the worst one.
I think it did. But the campsite itself was really quite lovely. It was a completely dry camp, no water, no fuel, no electricity, so we were living off our solar while we were in that campsite. But the dogs loved it. They had lots of room to run around. We are in the middle of nowhere. This whole town has no water, no electricity. It's very much...
No gasoline, no nothing. Everything that comes to this tiny town called Cataviña is trucked in. We're not sure why anybody stays here.
And fun fact, Cataviña means a taste of wine, Cataviña.
Which we're having.
Which we are, coincidentally.
I'm drinking Mexican wine, which is very good.
And apparently the history of this particular area is that the priests came and tried to create vineyards, but there's just not enough water up here. And so they left. But the town still remained named Cataviña.
Same in Mexico now as it always is, which is?
It's wonderful. And everyone is lovely. And this is no more dangerous than traveling anywhere else. It's
probably less dangerous than traveling other places.
Absolutely.
And yet, the caravan master, the wagon master of this Baja winter trip, told us he had 4 cancellations at the last minute, and he thinks it's all because of the fear-mongering going on about the terrible dangers of Mexico. And all we find are friendly people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And here we are, pulling off the road from Santa Inés back out to the highway, so you can really appreciate how bumpy it was. And we still had a few more miles on very potholed highways to get to our next stop, which is San Ignacio, via Guerrero Negro. We're now passing into Baja California Sur, which will be coming up. And this day I think we had 2 military inspections.
And the worst roads of all as well.
Yeah. Luckily some parts of the highway we had the whole road, so we could avoid the worst of it. And then we had the break of driving through some small towns along the way.
Yeah, that made it more interesting.
And the military inspections, people seem intimidated by them, but we have had nothing but people who are polite, they're respectful. They do sometimes check your vehicle and search your rigs, but we've never had a problem.
Because we never do anything illegal. That's the key, right?
True. And again, the benefit of traveling with an RV caravan is the fact that they know the best stops for gas. And when you're traveling with 30 feet behind you, you need to have the best stops for gas.
They also planned the gas stops so that none of us would ever run out of gas.
Good point. And here was the second military inspection. We did most of us get searched that day, but as we said before, it's never a problem. They were nothing but polite and courteous. And now we're heading straight for San Ignacio.
The Rice and Beans RV Park and Restaurant.
And this was one of the nicer roads coming into the RV park as well. It was nice and wide. We had a right-hand turn, but lots of room to make it. And then when we got down to the bottom, there was a good amount of space to back the rig in, as you can see coming up.
That's the wagon master waiting there to direct us in. Kind of being like constantly supervised, which is kind of nice when you're doing something so unusual.
And helped as you do your back in.
Yes, they help with all the parkings.
And as you can see, we have our beautiful solar system on the roof.
And that was the best thing we ever did before we took this trip.
That's true. We had a wonderful time at Rice and Beans. The food was excellent, and look at those margaritas. They were absolutely sumptuous. San Ignacio is a small town in the Mulegé municipality of northern Baja California Sur. The Jesuits founded this town and its iconic church in 1728. That church is now the most photographed church in Baja. The town also offers restaurants, an ice cream shop, and some shopping.
Some of us enjoyed a snack. Some of us saved space for the ice cream.
That was me.
That was me too. That's the church, obviously.
And we also enjoyed a nice stroll in the garden surrounding the church. Then we visited the Museo San Ignacio, which was very, very interesting.
Becky gave us a tour because she's been there many times.
And one of the best things was seeing the replica cave paintings, which were just amazing. Obviously the replicas because it's a 3-hour mule ride to see the originals, and no one had time for that.
But even the fake ones are quite awesome.
And here I am going to get my ice cream.
With good ice cream. And back to the dogs.
And back to the dogs. Today was an interesting day. We had done a lot of research about the Cuesta del Infierno, and we were a little bit alarmed about a 16% grade going downhill, but this is our gateway to the Sea of Cortez, so we were excited also. And luckily we had a feature in the Ford F-350 which allowed us to slip into a manual shifting option so that we could move through our gears instead of relying on our brakes to control our speed coming down this hill. And it was pretty smooth, I have to say. I think our fears were a little bit unfounded.
It was pretty easy and the brakes didn't burn.
Now on this way down, you're not next to the most steep drop-off, so the ride coming back up here was a little bit more of a nail-biter for us. But there were a few spots where there were drop-offs on our side as well. But here we are, coming into the Sea of Cortez, and that was our first sighting of it. And the road got even worse.
The road was good on the actual descent.
Yes. Again, nice safely pull off and take a break. Stretch our legs, and I think just settle our nerves down for the next part of the ride and exercise our dogs. And then we're off.
We didn't know we were in for quite a few miles of really bad roads.
This is the approach to Santa Rosalía, which was an old French mining town, and it was truly, truly horrible driving. Surprisingly, there were a lot of tire shops along that route. I think a lot of people destroy their tires.
Yeah, I think it's possible that some people had problems with their tires.
And this town has the distinction of having a church that was designed by the same designer of the Eiffel Tower in Paris. And it was the French mining company that brought it to Mexico. And here we are approaching Mulegé. A child, yes. School was just getting out and we had to really quickly slow down to avoid hitting that child.
He just stepped out in front of us.
But finally we were through Mulegé and we were coming down to Santispac Beach in the Bahía de Concepción. One of the better roads going into an RV area. Was actually pretty good.
Short and sweet.
And here is Santispac. You can see the rigs lined up just on the edge of the water. There was no one working that day, but eventually people came around and made sure we paid for every day that we were there. And on this beach, there is no electricity, there is no water, but there is, however, a dump station for your sewage. Unfortunately, you have to hand bomb it over there.
You can't approach it with your vehicle, it's too narrow.
It's too narrow, that's right. And there was a nice restaurant, Armando's, which is actually world famous on Santispac Beach. Great food and wonderful margaritas.
A little bit too wonderful, really. That first night was a blur.
Some of our group moved on to Loreto, which was the final destination of the caravan. We went by truck and saw that the parks were far too narrow to take our rigs, so we stayed on Santispac for 19 days. And it was wonderful to stay there and just unwind and relax and not drive, except into Mulegé to grab some supplies.
It was wonderfully relaxing and quiet and peaceful and friendly.
Yes.
And just watching the ocean changing all day long.
Yep. Having relaxing walks.
I could stay there for a year.
And the dogs loved it as well. We used Armando's restaurant as our office, as our breakfast station, other meals. It was our go-to place. They had internet, which was wonderful. And of course, we had our share of margaritas.
Yeah, it was great having Armando's right there.
We did have a second office, and that was in the town of Mulegé, El Candil restaurant, which was lovely. It was just a beautiful courtyard with lots of bird song and lovely internet. This couple coming onto the beach, they're in their 80s, and they were boating around Baja California. From La Paz, I believe, they kept their boats, and they were up at Santispac enjoying that. And up until a couple of years, they were actually sailboating. And here we are again at Armando's. Like I said, it was our living room. And the other wonderful thing was being out on the water, and it's always a magical sight when dolphins come up to greet you.
The water closer to the beach has suffered ecological damage from what I saw when I was snorkeling, but further out it's quite beautiful and unspoiled. And lots of sea life.
And of course the pelicans. We love our pelicans.
There's a lot of good fishing there too.
And as we said, our rig sustained some damage, so here are the people helping us get our water pipes back in order. And as I said, there's no water on this beach, so people truck in water for you, and it's safer to filter that water before it goes into your tanks. Even though you're not using it for drinking, you really don't want to be putting unrefined water into your truck.
You don't want dirty water in your tanks, no.
Yeah. But all too soon, it was time to leave Santispac Beach and start at north. One thing we think we forgot to mention is that people come to you on Santispac Beach. Fruit and vegetable vendors, you can even get your laundry taken and brought back for you. But we're saying goodbye and we're heading back up the Cuesta del Infierno, and this time we're on the side of the drop-off, so it was a little bit more of a white-knuckle drive coming back across it.
It was definitely a bit intimidating and not something I would want to do again with a trailer.
And not to mention cows. Where do they come from? They're in the middle of nowhere. So that makes things a little more challenging, and look how low that guardrail is. I mean, that wasn't going to save us if anything happened. And then we had this wonderful sight of this completely overloaded truck, which isn't a common sight in Mexico. That was the first time we had seen something that much overloaded.
And then we stopped for the whale watching, and that was awesome, world class.
Well, that was our Baja Caravan experience. We spent about a month exploring Baja, and honestly, it was life-changing.
If we were to do it again, there's really only one thing we would change. And what's that?
We would not do it in a huge truck towing a 30-foot fifth wheel.
Yeah, really, how stupid was that? We should have rented a small, rugged 4x4 camper van instead.
Because the reality is that most of these highways are narrow, with no shoulders, and at times...
It was definitely stressful, sometimes even dangerous. Sometimes we were terrified of going over a cliff. And there were some RV parks that were simply inaccessible for us because we were too big.
So if you're thinking of doing a trip like this, our advice is simple. Choose the right vehicle.
It will completely change and improve your experience. Not to mention, a smaller vehicle will save you a fortune on gas. But, having said all that,
We don't regret it, not even a little bit.
because this was a trip where we got to see the real Mexico. Not the all-inclusive resorts, real places with real people.
And everywhere we went, people were just genuinely kind.
And as we traveled into some of the most isolated parts of Mexico, we began to realize that everything we had read in the media about the dangers of Mexico was mainly just media hype. The people are actually welcoming, not predatory.
And that changed something for us because shortly after this trip, we made a decision that completely changed our lives.
We decided to move to Mexico.
And this journey you just watched, it was the beginning of our lives as expats.
And since then, we didn't just visit Mexico, we built a life here.
We bought a home in Mexico,
We got our permanent residency,
Mexican driver's licenses,
a Mexican car,
Mexican phones,
and even a few Mexican rescue dogs.
quite a few actually.
So, this isn't just a travel story for us anymore. This is our real life.
And along the way, we've learned a lot about how things really work here and what's easy and what's not.
What's worth it and what we would do differently.
And that's the kind of knowledge we want to share with you.
Because if you're thinking about Mexico, traveling here, RVing here, or even moving here,
We've been through it,
the good
the challenging,
and everything in between.
and now, even though we love our home in Mexico,
We're going to be on the move again. We're about to start a brand new chapter.
we're going to move clear across Mexico with 3 large dogs, our car, and all of our household effects. So hit the subscribe button and join us on this epic journey. It's as bad as Billy the Bougainvillea.
The flower is sticking out of my head. Ah!